Welcome everyone to the Opinionation Podcast. I am your host, King Daddy. Let's talk about violent crime. In the United States, yearly, there are approximately 1,275,000 acts of violence that take place in our country. 1,275,000. That's a lot. And you know, every time somebody is arrested for a violent crime, they read them their Miranda rights. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney, you know, blah, blah, blah. You've heard the shit that they read. But here's what I don't understand. Now, if somebody gets arrested for a crime and you're unsure that that person committed the crime, there's an investigation that ensues, and you try to figure out who commits the crime. You figure it out. You take them to a court of law. You either convict or acquit. Occasionally we'll get a hung jury, but for the most part, there's a judicial system that person is taken through, and they are able to fight for their innocence, plead their guilt down to a lesser crime to avoid more sentencing, possible death penalty, long-term prison. But the bottom line is, what about the ones who commit these crimes that they absolutely know that the person is guilty? What if the police absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt know that that person is guilty? Well, it cost the United States government, which comes out of our tax money, approximately $17 million in a lifetime per criminal for violent crime, per trial, feeding, clothing, housing, the whole shebang is how much we spend. What is wrong with the theory behind if the police department catch a person actually committing the crime, they know for a fact that this person is, say, raped, murdered, violently abused, or done whatever they've done, especially to children. What is wrong with the fact that the police just can't take out justice on them right then and there? Or why can't they go to court? And a lot of you have seen my post on social media. I have gotten some rave reviews and emails, and I have also gotten some negative reviews and emails about the picture of the electric chair that I put on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, saying that if a person is sitting in the courtroom, why can't they just sit them in that chair and allow them, while they're sitting in that chair, once they're convicted, for the judge just to push the button and go ahead and take care of business? But I like to go one step farther than that. I'm not going to get myself caught up in the war of words with anybody or the semantics of the details. But what if this example were given? Say, for instance, you're in a bar. You're having a few drinks with your friends. The bar's uptown somewhere, downtown, New York, Chicago, Charlotte here even. And you leave the bar and you are walking down the street going to the bus or to your Uber or to a cab. And somebody robs, and you put up a little bit of a fight and they kill you. So, in the midst of all of this, the police come, there's a witness, they arrest the person who just killed you in cold, murderous blood in the middle of the sidewalk. The police have come, they know beyond the shadow of a doubt that the person who they have arrested for the crime actually did the crime. They have the smoking gun or knife or whatever form of weapon they choose to use in that person's hand. They know that they did it. Why does that person even get the opportunity to make it to court in the first fucking place? I know for a fact right now that there are some social justice warriors or civil rights activists out there who are listening to the words that are coming out of my mouth, and they are cringing in horror that I would dare say this about someone who they say still has civil rights. But what was the right that the person on the sidewalk had that just had their life ended by some piece of shit who does not deserve to live anyway. We're going to spend $17 million so that this piece of shit can get 3 meals a day, a place to sleep, clothes to wear, his clothes laundered, and have a place to spend that is heated and air conditioned, warm and dry and cool for the rest of his fucking life at the expense of our tax dollars. Take the motherfucker out. The criminal justice system is so broken that now you have people out there who are talking and using words like prison reform. There is no such thing as reforming a fucking prison. How about reforming our schools and reforming our hospitals and reforming our VA system? But you want to reform the prisons. Fuck the prisons. So you want to give these guys this opportunity to go into prison and to have all these things, which also includes, by the way, television time, because Lord knows you don't want to break their fucking rights, so that they can go in there and make friends, form gangs, and potentially kill guards and plan escapes, which cost more money. So you want to waste money keeping these people in these prisons for the rest of their life, a lot of which do not even spend the rest of their life in there. They get out of prison after 20 years with so-called rehabilitation, and then they're expected to go out and try to make it into the real world without committing crimes to make it all over again when you just drop them on the streets like a bad habit, put them in a halfway house for a while, expect them to try to go get a job making enough money to live on with a prison record. You are doing them more injustice by housing them in prison than you ever would with a bullet in the back of their goddamn head. That is what's wrong with the prison system in America. The court system is clogged up to the point where people are getting years sometimes before they even get convicted of crimes. Some of these crimes, they're in there so long before they're actually convicted that you get some loosey-goosey fucking judge in there who gives them time served so that they can go back on the streets, back to their gangs, back to their criminal activity, and back to the things that they were doing that got them in the courtroom in the first place. Quit taking so many people to court. The court system is not the answer for an animal. And you can say that I'm using inappropriate language to describe another human being by calling them an animal, but what else would you call somebody who willingly takes the life of another human being without regards of anything but a couple of dollars in their wallet or their own self-satisfaction or gratification? They are an animal. You know, I have dogs. There's a dog up the hill from me that stays impregnated all the time. And the reason why this dog stays impregnated all the time is because it's an animal. That's what animals do. They sleep when they want to. They eat pretty much when they want to, unless they're in the house being fed like a criminal. They fuck when they want to. They do whatever they want to do because they are an animal, and that's what animals do. And then you have these people who develop an animal mentality, and they want to go around and they want to kill and rape and harm innocent people who are doing nothing but going to and from their life. And then you want to spend all this money to take care of them, and you want to fight for their rights. Well, what about the rights of a person who served our country? What about the rights of a man or a woman who spent time, say, in Iraq or Vietnam or another war, giving his life or limb for our country, and they're not good enough to reform what they need? They're not good enough for health care. They're not good enough for benefits. They're not good enough for 3 meals a day and an air-conditioned, heated place to sleep. But you can sit here and tell me that a fucking criminal is? That is absolute bullshit. The answer to our problem with criminals in America is the fact that there is no real justice. Cowboy justice is the only justice. Hang them in the streets, shoot them in the head, electrocute them after they're found guilty. Forget about the 10,000 appeals processes and the people standing outside the courtroom holding up signs saying that they're innocent. Let them go. They've served their time. They've paid the price. They've done this. They've done that. No. If you take another person's life, unless it is in war or self-defense, you are an absolute piece of shit and you have no rights. That is a problem. Justice should be served when their form of criminality is done. If you catch a person in the act and you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that that person has committed that violent act of selfishness against another human being, they should be dealt with immediately. Forget due process, forget a court case, forget spending millions of dollars to find out what kind of sentence there is. There should be a mandatory sentence for murder and rape and child molestation of immediate, absolute, no mixed words about it, death. That will deter crime. Criminals are not scared to commit crime because there's nothing to scare them. They know that even if they get put in prison, they can go to prison and start a gang and make friends and watch TV and read books and get a college education and go on the fucking internet. I've been watching the news lately, prisons in South Carolina. Now, and I find this to be the most ridiculous thing of all. They can't block cell phone signals. There's some law that prevents blocking a cell phone signal in a prison. And these people get cell phones thrown over the fence. So they're in there making Facebook posts and taking Instagram pictures and surfing the internet. They're not living a life much like you and I do, except for they can't leave the confines of the prison. But other than that, they still have a social network of people to hang around with and to talk to. And they have computers and they have televisions and they have all this stuff, books, the ability to learn. Why do they have this shit? Why can a prisoner not go to prison for a violent crime? Why do they have to go? Why does a prisoner who goes to prison for armed robbery is a violent crime as well, but say a violent crime that does not take a life, and you put that person in prison, why can they not go to a work camp? Why do they get the things that they get in prison? It is unfair to the American tax dollar that we have to spend this much money on those people so that they can live a life like they live with 3 square meals a day, a cot. What do they used to call it, the prisoners? 3 hots and a cot. So you know that if they come up with little things like that to say 3 hots and a cot, they're living in air conditioning conditions. A lot of them make friends with the prison guards, and if they have connections on the outside, the prison guards are helping them get away with things. They're giving them cell phones. They're giving them drugs. The prison system is actually broken, but it's not so much the prison system that's broken as the entire judicial process is broken. Let's look at this El Chapo, for example. They're going to put El Chapo in the most maximum security of all maximum security prisons in New York. Why is that man not dead? Why is that man allowed to live another fucking day on this planet? Why? Why is Charles Manson still in prison being fed, clothed, and housed? Why is Charles Manson not executed from the moment he was arrested? Nobody has put the fear of anything in these people. They keep committing crimes. They keep doing the things that they're doing because they have nothing to be afraid of, because they have made even jail is not even unappealing. Prison should be unappealing. Committing a crime should be unappealing. There should be absolutely no way that anybody does not think twice before committing a crime, because they should be terrified of the consequences. But there are no real consequences. I like my picture of the electric chair. I think they should sit an electric chair in the middle of every courtroom in the country, and you should sit in that chair and you should face the jury. And as soon as they stand up and read the guilty verdict for a violent crime that involves taking the life of another human being, raping another human being, or molesting a child, the judge should push the button and zap your goddamn ass. That is it. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Criminals get away with entirely too much shit, and we as Americans should stop it for two reasons. One, it's costing us so much money that could be used for other things. And two, we're allowing these mouth-breathing, animalistic pieces of shit to still have some form of freedom and rights. It's not fair. It's not fair to the victims, it's not fair to the taxpayer, and it's not fair to the American citizens who have to live in fear when they walk down the streets in their own towns. This is King Daddy, signing off for the Opinionation Podcast. Have a wonderful day.